Hello there, my name is Lauren and I am the maker behind Vintage Knitting Party. Welcome to another podcast episode. It's a Monday morning, which kind of seems like the perfect time to be making a podcast episode for the month of January. I can't believe that January is coming to a close already. It actually just seems like the year has only just begun, and I feel like this year is just gonna fly by, which is sad, but I also feel like there's so many exciting things happening that's going to help that process along, and that's not a bad thing. Today I'm wearing the floor dress by Bella Loves Patterns. I'll give you a better look at it, a full length kind of look. This dress I made out of a vintage bedsheet. You can have another look at it in the video that I made with everything that I sewed in 2022. I did have a couple of comments on that video with people saying that they wish that I'd shown more of the garments on. I just thought today, seeing as I'm wearing a me-made item, that I would show you a full-length look of what it's like on my body. You can see that the top and the bottom of this dress are slightly different prints because the duvet cover that this came from had a top and a bottom, so it was like double the fabric. And they match, but they're slightly different. So one is an all over floral and one has stripes. And I used the original ruffle from the duvet cover to put along the bottom of the dress. Today I'm drinking rose tea. I found that my local supermarket stocks bulk rose petals that you can make into tea, which I obviously had to buy because that's the cutest thing I've ever heard of. And my mug was a beautiful gift from my friend Magenta. This mug is made by Rosie from Forest and Finch Ceramics, I believe. She's a local artist based here in Brisbane, and Magenta got it for my birthday last year. It's actually surprisingly easy to hold with the little mushroom. It's quite ergonomic and I love drinking out of it. Today's episode is going to be a bit of a long one, so I suggest that you also settle in with a cup of tea or a hot chocolate or something that makes you very, very happy. Get some knitting and let's chat. See behind me that I actually have a little stack of knits with quite a few things to share with you today. I'm going to start off very quickly with the items that I've finished. I have two of them, two smaller items, and then I'm going to be talking to you about two larger projects that I have ongoing, maybe a third one as well. I also have a giant basket of things that I have acquired over the last month. If you've seen my other two podcast episodes, you'll know that I'm not much of an acquirer. I'm a bit of a magpie. I like to collect. If I see things secondhand, I do like to pick them up and add them to my collection if I can see myself using them. But I really am trying not to do a lot of shopping, so this is a bit fun. I'm going to be saving that for last, so hang around. The first thing that I really want to share with you are the line socks. These were designed by Simone at Rust Knitwear. They are so beautiful. You can see the light shining through my slip stitch heel. Just a really, really beautiful design made from a 1x1 sort of cable situation that comes together in a point at the front of the sock. Either side, they face in a different direction. You can see where the points line up there. And I made these using Cascade Heritage fingering weight sock yarn. I believe the colour that I used for the length of the sock is pumpkin spice, and the colour that I used for the toe is butter. And I actually was lucky enough to complete these as a test knitter for Simone. I have loved her knitwear for a really long time, loved her patterns. She seems so sweet, so kind, and it was a really, really wonderful test knitting experience for my first go. She was really responsive, really supportive, and yeah, congratulations to her for such a lovely pattern. I would really, really recommend these. I think we're a little bit slower to knit than obviously a vanilla sock or even a lace pattern, just because the 1x1 cable can be a tiny bit fiddly, but the effect is really beautiful, and it actually didn't cramp my hands up too much, which was really, really nice. I knit size D because I wanted to make these for my partner. He's really excited. He tried them on, they fit, and I actually completed one of the socks before showing them to him. And I was onto the second one and I just had a suspicion that they were gonna be just a tiny bit too short. So I made him try them on. He was really excited, but they were just like 2 centimeters too short in the foot maybe. So I knit the second sock up to the same point that I had knit the first sock. And then I ripped out the toe that I had already finished and I knit them 2 at a time to be able to make them just like 2.5 centimeters longer maybe. And then I finished the toes off at the same time and it was actually really satisfying. I do think the overall process was maybe a little bit slower than if I were knitting each one individually, but 2 at a time sock knitting is so satisfying. I definitely suffer from second sock syndrome, so even though it was a little bit slower to sort of like keep moving the magic loop around rather than knitting on my normal 9-inch circulars, I still think this is a technique that I would be trying to do again in the future. I've blocked these, which is why they're so lovely and flat. Blocking socks makes such a difference. You have to do it, don't skip it. It's essential. I think now that I've shared these with the internet, my partner's going to be really excited to wear them. The second finished item I'm not going to talk about for too long because it's a gift, and it is also a baby knit. I know that baby knits maybe aren't everybody's thing, but I just had to share this little guy. This is the popcorn romper. I forget the designer's full name, but her handle on Instagram is Woolwilla, and it's a beautiful pattern. So lovely. I made this using the Patterns 4-ply Big Baby that I think I just got from Spotlight a really long time ago. I actually originally bought it because the gauge is perfect for making vintage patterns. I think it's 28 stitches to 10 centimeters, but then I just don't think this color, I don't know, it looks pretty good on camera against my skin tone, I think, but sometimes I wear grey and I look like I'm dead. So I have been saving it for a little while and I thought this baby project would just be the perfect thing. This is for my brother's first baby. I'm so excited for him and his partner. I'm like trying to contain my excitement. I just can't wait. We are so excited to have new tiny little people in our family this year, and knitting this for her was just such a dream. I love the little popcorns. They were so fun to knit. Put 4 little buttons on the top to be able to adjust the straps. If you have ever spoken to me about anything to do with buttons, you know that I'm a little bit of a button hoarder, and one of my favorite things to do is to try and match up buttons that aren't quite a perfect match, but they can go on a project together, because there are a lot of mismatched buttons in the world, but they're perfectly functioning and they're beautiful. So 3 of these buttons match and one of them is slightly different. I think it's this little one down, oh, she's falling out. This little one down here is a slightly different grey to the other 3, but still so beautiful. The pattern is actually for a DK weight, so I held the fingering weight yarn double and it knit up really quickly. I would definitely recommend this pattern. The only thing I might say about the pattern is that even though it's very well, like it's a beautiful pattern, obviously it comes together really nicely. I knit the 3 to 6 month size, by the way. There were some spots where I wonder if maybe it was translated and there were some like little pieces that were missing from the writing. So for example, there was one spot where I was doing the increases and it said to increase at the end of every row. But after a lot of trial and error, I figured out that it actually meant at the end of every knit row. So maybe there were some things like that where the writing of the pattern could be neatened up a tiny bit, but obviously I could still use it and it was still wonderful. And I've seen everybody else knit up beautiful, super cute little versions. I can't wait to make more of these. Now let's chat about vintage knitting for a while, because I know that's what you guys are all here for. Okay, which project am I going to talk about first? I'm going to talk about the last little project that is behind me first. If this looks like a fully formed sweater that you have never seen and you think you might be going crazy and I've knitted a whole fingering weight sweater in 4 weeks, you're not crazy. I did not do this in this month. What I did do, I guess in the process of my make, do and mend videos, where I have been pulling out all of the materials from storage that I have collected over the years and hoping to make them all into garments. I really just don't want things left in the cupboard being wasted, like, you know, good quality materials that I'm just not getting around to using. And in that, I have discovered this whip that I had left languishing, I suppose is the term. It is the Lawn Sweater. It is a beautiful sun glow pattern. It's actually out of the first vintage knitting book that I ever bought, and it was definitely my gateway drug. As soon as this pattern and I locked eyes, before I'd even purchased the booklet, I knew I was going to make it. It was the first vintage pattern that I ever actually cast on, so it was also my first attempt resizing a vintage pattern. I actually think I did an okay job of this. I did my calculations, I did my maths. I didn't do a gauge swatch, but luckily I actually achieved gauge, and you know, it lined up fairly well with what the pattern tension was written. So I did my calculations, and there were a couple of things that happened with this sweater that made me abandon it. The texture of the pattern is so beautiful. It's made up from these like increases and decreases that form almost like a cable looking situation, and then you have these 4 bubbles in a diagonal fashion, sort of within that diamond shape. If you scroll back on my Instagram, there are some photos of this, of these front and back pieces from when I very first started knitting this. However, I have blocked it since then and it looks even better. So the 2 things that I thought were going wrong with this were my remaining yarn. So I had 100 grams left of this fingering weight yarn. This is actually the same yarn that I made my Felina sweater out of, that I found secondhand. It was like they'd been on clearance, they're discontinued kind of thing. And I had 100 grams left to knit both of the sleeves. And at the time I have like half a weird sleeve knitted where I've like tried to cut corners in every way that I can and make it the tiniest sleeve in the world, because I was so certain that I was going to run out of yarn. So I guess now I have a reference point, seeing as I've knit the Felina sweater in the same yarn. I used 40 grams for each of those sleeves, and they are actually quite large. They're sort of a bit too big for me, and I'm looking at putting some elastic thread into the bottom to kind of make them a little bit more puffy. So I think I'm going to be okay yarn-wise. So I have started the sleeves, which I'm very, very excited about. I'm just measuring my yarn as I go and, you know, adjusting, like maybe they won't be quite as long as the ones in the pattern, but that's okay because I don't need them to be anyway. I also shortened the Felina sweater's sleeves by 1 inch, and I still think that's really comfortable and has plenty of length. They don't look like they're too small. If anything, they're still quite long. So the yarn is not going to be a problem. I am going to be continuing. The second problem that I thought there was with this sweater was the size. But after making, because it looked so small before I blocked these pieces, it just looked like this weird, you know how lace is before you block it, like it just, not that this is a lace pattern, but with the bubbles and the increases and the decreases, it just was this like scrunched up little, tiny little mess. And even though I stretched it out, I was like, how on earth is my body going to fit into this? Now I've measured it after blocking it, and it's actually the perfect size. So the reason that I wanted to like explore this again was because I think I did my calculations right for the Felina sweater, but I don't think I blocked my swatch. I don't think I really accounted for how much the lace was going to grow once I blocked it. You know, all of that weight from the water, the very, very fine sort of fingering weight wool being sort of weighed down by that, like it just stretches out so much. I wonder if it would be different if I steam blocked. It probably wouldn't have stretched quite so much, but that's okay. And I had that in the back of my mind, and I was about to frog this, and I thought, like, I'll just block it. I'll just see if it stretches out a bit. I'll see what happens. And now it's the perfect size, so I get to keep going with it, which I'm very, very excited about. So I have a front and a back piece, and I have enough wool left to be making 2 short sleeves. So hopefully this will be done sometime soon. I would love to wear this winter. I actually have so many pieces of clothing that I think this like mauvey purple would look so nice with. This pattern doesn't actually have any neck shaping. It's just like a straight across kind of situation, and you seam it up on one side of the shoulder, and then on the other side of the shoulder you put 3 little snaps in to be able to, you know, give yourself the space to go in and out of the sweater. In hindsight, I wish that I had just modified the pattern to put buttons in, because I have already bought the snaps and the little the metal clampy thing that comes with it to be able to install the snaps, and those are just extra materials that I don't really want to have in my life. I don't really want to be buying plastic snaps in every single color to be able to match every single project, I would have just preferred to have stuck with buttons. But I'll use the snaps and maybe I can sell them or give them away and they'll be able to go to a good home. So this is my lawn sweater in all of its glory. I absolutely love it. I love it just as much as I did when I very first saw that pattern. And I can't wait to keep working on it. I have cast on the first sleeve and then I promptly broke my knitting needle because I was using wooden needles and so that was a little bit of a delay and I had to deal with all of that. So there has been a roadblock already, but that's okay. The sweater is not cursed. 3 things have gone wrong with it now. I just have to keep going. Now the second vintage item that I want to talk with you about is my Conga sweater. This sweater, I think in the last podcast episode I had technically cast on, but I'd done like the cast on and then just like 1 row of knitting. It was essentially non-existent. And now we have the beginning of a sweater. The color tone of this sweater actually kind of reminds me a little bit of the lawn sweater. It's that mauvey, browny kind of tone, which I just think is beautiful. If you've seen any of my makes or anything that I've ever shared on Instagram, you know that I am a fan of earthy, warm kind of tones. They are my favorite types of color to wear. But what I've ended up with in my wardrobe is a lot of warm browns. So a lot of like rust, orangey, coppery sort of colors, and there are only so many of those that you can wear all together. So I'm very, very excited to have a cool toned brown sweater in my collection. The yarn that I'm using is yarn that I got secondhand. It's called Bellissimo, I believe, and it's a wool, polyamide and acrylic blend. You can see from this close-up that it is like a cool toned brown, but it has these beautiful speckles of pink and purple, peach, mint green and white, and it just is knitting up so beautifully. The yarn is not made up from individual strands of wool which have been plied together, but it's more sort of chained together. I can see that there is some natural fiber in here, but I can also, it feels like it's being constructed in a man-made way, but it doesn't feel plasticky. And it just is so soft without feeling, I suppose synthetic. Like it actually is just so, so beautiful. And I'm so, so happy that I found this. The sweater is knitting up really beautifully. I'm really happy with the progress that I've made in a month. I'm not an overly fast knitter. And as you can see, I've been working on some other projects as well. So to me, this is quite a lot of progress, especially for a stockinette sweater that is not all that interesting to work on. It is beautiful seeing the fabric come to life and looking like an actual sweater instead of a ball of yarn. But, otherwise this is pretty much just TV knitting for me, or, if I'm waiting in the car to pick up my partner or something like that. The pattern is lovely. I have modified it to be knit in the round instead of flat. There are a few reasons that I did that. Seaming, I don't mind seaming. I can find it quite meditative and quite relaxing, and it can be really rewarding to see your garment come together after knitting it flat. But I mean, if I can avoid it, I will, obviously. And with stockinette, I just did not fancy the idea of doing all of those rows back and forth of knitting and purling and knitting and purling. I just wanted it to be in the round, just, totally brainless, totally mindless. So I'm really happy with how that's gone. I have modified the pattern by adding an extra 8 inches to the front and the back from the bigger size. I believe it's a 34 and 36 inch bust measurement, and there's 8 stitches in the front and back between the 34 and the 36. And then I wanted it to fit a size 38 inch bust, so I've added another 8 stitches again. My swatch tells me that it will work out fine, but this is also a sweater with a little bit of positive ease around the bodice, which wasn't typical for 1940s patterns, but I think this will be quite wearable. I think a lot of the fitted sweaters that I own require them to be a part of the outfit that I will be wearing all day because I'm wearing them in place of a blouse, but that's not always practical in Brisbane. Oftentimes, even in the winter, it gets really warm during the day and I'm having to take off layers and things like that. So I think this will be a really practical sweater for me to own. I have a white sweater that I knitted years ago now from a modern pattern. I think it's the Petite Knit balloon sleeve sweater, and I made that in DK weight using a white yarn with speckles of brown, rust, olive green, black, and it's just so wearable. I love it so much. It was interesting to knit because of the speckles, but I wear it all the time. And I see this is the inverse of that, because this is the dark color with the light speckles, and I'm just delighted to have both of them. I know that once I get to the point where I have to decrease for the armholes, I'm going to be knitting this flat, and I'm okay with that. My gauge doesn't tend to change too much between knitting in the round and knitting flat because I'm just a tight knitter overall. So I'll be doing that and knitting the whole bodice, and I have thought about what I want to do with the sleeves and whether I want to reverse engineer them to knit the entire thing in the round and pick up the stitches and knit downwards, but I think just to stay authentic to the pattern and to replicate that shape of those beautiful 1940s sleeves with that little gather around the sleeve head, I think I'm going to be knitting the sleeve in separate pieces from the cuff upwards as the pattern describes. I will try and knit those in the round as well if I can, and then just seam the sleeve onto the body, and at least I'll have minimal seaming to do, and this huge massive stitches I've been able to do in the round, which I'm very happy about. This pattern only requires me to knit 11 inches, I believe, from the bottom up to where the armhole decreases start, which doesn't feel very deep to me at all. I think this is already 8 inches for reference, and this does not look very deep to me, but I suppose looking from the pattern picture, it is quite cropped, and it looks like it's designed to be worn with, high-waisted trousers and skirts and things like that, and be more tucked into it rather than a lot of other sweaters from the 1940s where I see the pictures, like the sweater is sort of over the top of the trousers. So I wonder if maybe, this is just very high-waisted, and I'm okay with that because I love a high waist. I think that's everything that I have to say about the Conga sweater, but this is my main project at the moment. I don't love juggling multiple projects. Even the idea of having this and the lawn sweater on the go at the same time stresses me out just a tiny bit. So this is probably what you're going to be seeing for the next couple of podcast episodes. I'll see how much I get knitted up in February, but we are going on a trip in March for our honeymoon, and I'm thinking about making this my project that I'll take with me because it's so light, it weighs barely anything. It's so fluffy and airy, but I think there will be a lot of time on road trips, a lot of sitting in cabins by the fire, and hopefully I'll be able to smash out quite a bit of this on that trip if I haven't gotten close to being finished already. And that means that I'll be able to enjoy it for our winter in Australia. Now there's one more project that I'd like to talk to you about before we get into the acquisitions. This one is a little bit different, and it's one that you may not see again for a little while because it's a scrap busting project that is going to be happening in the background. A couple of years ago, I picked up this Woman magazine at the op shop. This was printed in 1970, and it's just your standard vintage craft magazine. There's lots of wonderful articles in here about how to knit, how to crochet, lots of different patterns, stitches, color work motifs, all those sorts of things. There are some kids' toys, kids' outfits. There are some really cute bags in here actually. I saw this lovely pattern for a blanket, and I just thought it was beautiful. Sorry, I've crocheted a cushion like this, and I've crocheted a granny square blanket before, and I've really enjoyed the process. I like the finished product probably a little bit more. Crochet I think it is so fun. There's so much cool stuff that you can do. It's, really, really fast, obviously, but my hands get really sore. I am not an ergonomic crocheter. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. I suppose because my tension in knitting is quite tight. I assume I do the same thing with crochet, and my hands get so tense. It's really, really difficult. So I couldn't have something like this be my main project, but as a scrap buster in the background, I think it's going to be really fun. I've made a few granny squares. They haven't been blocked, so they're kind of crumpled at the moment. Oh, this light is super light. Okay, I'll probably just record a little close-up of them because I think the white is really throwing my camera at the moment, but you get the idea. They're super cute. I've just got a tiny little stack of them that I've already made. And I'm just going to keep doing the 3 inner layers of the color and then an outer layer of white. And then I'll probably sew them together with white yarn and a tapestry needle because I like that finish the best. I don't love the single crochet ridges that you get when you put the granny squares together. That's just my personal preference. And I think seaming is actually going to be a little bit more gentle on my hands when it comes to finally putting all of these together. And this has been so fun. I love them. This is my giant bag of scraps. I have so many different colors in here that, like, I don't even know where they came from. Just random balls of yarn that I love the colors of, but I'm never going to wear a scrappy sweater or anything like that. But I would have something like this in my house because I think this is going to be so cute. For some reason, you just end up with bits of wool. I don't even know where this would have come from. Would I have bought this? I don't know. Did someone give it to me? Who knows? I've just ended up with it all. So I keep collecting DK weight scraps in here. If I have some fingering weight yarns, I'll probably put them together into a scrappy sock, but otherwise I might just try and hold them double and use them up as well. And I'm sure that you will see this finished blanket in 6 years' time when I actually get around to finishing it. But I thought I might just let you know that the project exists. Oh. Now, it's time to talk about all the stuff that I've brought into my house. Okay, I'm gonna make a bit of a mess. Where do we wanna start? We need some tea. I'm gonna start with a little book first. This book has come to me from my friend's nan who has gone into a home and she's downsizing. She just sounds like an amazing person and I kind of want to sit down and have a chat with her and like let her know how much I appreciate being able to give one of her books a home. A lot of the books that she had in her house that she's trying to downsize at the moment, my friends have been looking for homes for them and they saw this little book about crochet and tatting from the 50s and they thought of me. To be specific, this is a first edition printed in 1953. It has a little stamp from the public library in it, which is so cute, and there is so many good patterns in here. This is a lovely little bag pattern. We've got some lovely little shell stitch blouses. I really love this lace blouse. I think that's so nice. And there's also this lovely tie-up sun top. That is so beautiful. I love it. The book has instructions on how to knit lace, how to crochet, instructions about Tenerife lace, I don't know much about that, and how to tat as well. I do have some vintage tatting shuttles and a vintage tatting book, and I would love to learn to tat. There's no one I don't think I will find who will teach me, but I am pretty confident in my ability to learn through YouTube and, you know, books and things like that. Engineering Knits has a really cool video about teaching herself to tat. I think she was tatting in that video. I'm certain she was. And I just was so inspired. The other tatting book that I have has a really sweet little like lace motif collar that I think would be so cute on the top of a shift dress, and that's my main motivation, to be honest. But I'd love to tat some little coasters. I think they'd be so cute. I have quite a bit of vintage cotton that I've collected. I don't know why. Why do I do these things? I don't know. But now I can tat them and I can crochet them. So I'm so grateful to have this book in my possession. I love that it's come from such an incredible woman. Another really lovely sentimental item, I suppose, that's come into my world are these 2 pieces of wool fabric. One of my wonderful workmates, who is an author and an artist and just appreciates creative things so much, visited her family recently, and her mum gave her some pieces of fabric that she's kept for herself. And she saw these 2 and thought of me and passed them on to me, which I'm so grateful for. Like I said, they're 100% wool, so they're very rustic feeling, kind of itchy in a really cool way, but they're 2 sets of plaid fabric. Beautiful. Both of these are going to end up as mini skirts. I made a corduroy skirt recently in a make do and mend video, and you're going to see some more fabrics which are going to be made into skirts as well, because I am mildly obsessed with that skirt. I wear it all the time. Even though it's summer, it's so not the season for this type of skirt. It's such a fashion faux pas, but I'm going to have to make some linen ones as well because I love it. I have some merino fabric that was a remnant that I got from the fabric store in that brown color that I'm hoping to make into a turtleneck this week, and I just think those two are going to be the cutest outfit ever. And then this one, like I said, is also going to be a skirt, but if you watched my 2023 knitting plans, you know that I want to make like a lacy kind of sweater pattern. Frivolity, maybe? I'll put a picture up anyway. And I was sort of talking through my color ideas in that video, and it occurred to me that like a bottle green would be beautiful in that type of pattern. And it's the exact type of green that's in this fabric, so this would just be the perfect pairing. This one is in perfect condition. There's not a huge amount of it, but there'll be enough. And this piece of fabric has a few little nibbles in it. So both of these went into the freezer as soon as they came into my house. I don't think there's any nasty things left on them anyway. And the tiny little nibbles are small enough that I should just be able to stitch over them. They're so small, I'll be able to easily cover them up. Everything else that's here, actually most things that are left here, I got from The Nest, which is my favorite community-run organization. It's basically a crafty op shop. It is one of my favorite places to go. I go in with a shopping list just like I would if I were going to a normal fabric store. And I went with two of my wonderful crafty friends from work. We had a ball. I'm so grateful to have something like this so close to where I live. I want to keep showing you fabric, but I'm kind of drowning in notions, so I think I'm gonna have to just start from the top and then dig my way through. Let me make some sense of this. I picked up one sewing pattern. This is from Simply Sewing, designed by Sew Girl. I've seen these patterns around, but I don't know this designer very well, so I'm gonna have to find them on Instagram and see if they still exist. And this is the Tara tea dress. So as you can see, this is a really cute little dress with almost like an empire waistline, long sleeves, invisible zipper in the back, a little ruffle down the bottom. Super, super cute. I love it. Here's the back. There's no line drawing, which is a tiny bit frustrating because both of the samples are made in really, really loud fabrics. So I have a feeling that over this footage it'll be a little bit difficult to see the exact cut of the dress, but I think this is beautiful. It's never been used, never cut into, which is really, really handy. And I think this was $2. Which seems like such a steal. I'm really excited to make maybe a linen version of this for work. I have quite a few fabrics that I'm thinking of already that I think are going to be perfect for this. I picked up some overlocking thread. I got some cream and some brown. I am almost out of white, but I ended up getting the cream because there's so much on here, and I could get 4 of all the same color, and it looks like a polyester blend, so it doesn't look like there's any damage to the thread. If you're buying thread secondhand, just pull it and see whether it comes apart easily in your hands, because this cotton and plant-based sort of threads, or natural threads especially, can deteriorate over time. So you want to make sure that what you're putting into your machine and what you're sewing into your seams is actually going to hold up and not deteriorate straight away. We went to Spotlight on the same day. There were a couple of supplies that I wasn't able to get at the Nest that I had to pick up at Spotlight. I got this top stitching thread that I'm going to be using for my Jenny overalls. I just bought the pattern from Closet Core and I'm going to be making them to wear on our trip. And I also just got some more machine needles, some more heavy duty top stitching ones, some universal needles, and some ballpoint needles for stretch fabric, because like I said, I'm planning on making some turtlenecks. All of the other notions I also got from the Nest. I have 2 new spools of thread. I've got a cream and a white, and I just feel like I'm always running out of these colors, so I thought I'd pick them up. I found some belting. I've got this taupe, like brown sort of color, and I've got just over 1 meter of that for $1, and 1.5 meters of this white color for $1.50. My preference is to use a water erasable pen when I'm sewing, but you know, there are some fabrics that just doesn't work on, and I'm just coming to the end of my pens, so I did have a water erasable pen or some Taylor's chalk on my list. I didn't find a pen, but I did find this little tub of chalk that has been used somewhat, but they're all still there in the little tin. and this was only 30 cents, which just is amazing. Look at all those little cuties in there. They work, they're still in really good quality. I ended up getting quite a few zippers. I always pick up zippers if I see them in the right length. This longer brown one, I have a dress which I know this is going to be really handy for. And then I ended up with a bunch of shorter zippers, some of them with metal teeth, which makes me very, very happy, instead of the plastic. And all of these are going to be the perfect length to either use in my overalls or in the mini skirts that I'm talking about. I got a couple of different lengths of bias tape. Some of these are thicker and meant for hemming, and some of them are just like thinner ones meant for normal garments. These were anywhere between 50 cents and $2 for the newer packet that hasn't been opened, and I think these are colors that I'm going to use all the time. Like, bias tape is one of my favorite things to buy secondhand. You know, this is just something that I'm always going to go through. You use up so much more bias tape than you realize. I have one piece of fabric that I bought while I was in Spotlight. This is not something that I normally do. I don't think I've bought fabric from Spotlight for a really long time, but I saw this pinwheel cord on clearance. It was $6 a meter. I love this color so much. Imagine how good this is gonna look as a pair of overalls with my lawn sweater. They are just going to be so adorable together. I am not sure at this stage whether this is going to be a long pair of overalls or just a little short one or a pinafore dress, because I just think any of those would look so cute. I probably have enough to make maybe like a skirt as well, or a matching jacket or something like that. I think I just got what was left on the bolt, so maybe 2.5 meters. I think it's so cute. I don't know why I've ended up wearing so much purple. Everything around me is purple. It's actually wild. It's not one of my usual go-to colors, but I think it's really pretty. So very happy with this one. And then I also ended up with 3 fabrics from the Nest as well. This top one here looks like a wool blend. It's not overly itchy and it's not overly thick, but it's a beautiful like little houndstooth kind of brown and cream. Initially when I bought this, I thought that this would make a really beautiful 60s style shift dress, or maybe a pair of trousers, a pinafore, anything like that. So I'm probably going to see how much there is here and then decide what I'm going to be doing with it. If I were to make a dress out of this, imagine getting a fabric of a similar consistency in the dark brown for the waistband, for the shoulders. Like, imagine how cute that would look with a contrasting fabric. That would just be beautiful. I don't know why I'm shopping for so much wintry stuff while I'm in summer, but I think I do this every year. I get so excited for winters to start, and I get almost like a little bit of fear that when the season comes around, the weather will change and I'll be a little bit shocked by it and I might not have anything to wear. So I think I'm just getting prepared. I don't know why though, because like I said, our winters are very mild. This will make something beautiful. Very, very happy about it. The second one in this pile feels like a cotton viscose blend. It's just a simple brown, super cute. If I don't end up making a little blouse out of this, I think this would make a lovely lining fabric. I do have a lining fabric that's going to be really lovely for the red tartan fabric that I showed you from my work friend, but I didn't really have any lining fabric that would be suitable for the blue, and I kind of was hoping for cream or blue or something that would match a little bit better, but I think this would be really beautiful for that as well. And then the last piece of fabric that I got is not a huge amount of fabric, but it will be enough to make one of those little mini skirts. I promise I lint rolled this, but somehow it's picked up all of this fluff. It's looking a little bit navy in this light, but I promise it is a true black. There's no way I'm going to be able to show you a nice close-up of this, so you're going to have to trust me that it's a corduroy. You can kind of see it in the light. I am really happy with everything that I got. I still get the guilt around buying anything from Spotlight, especially fabric that I don't need, but I really, really do love what I've bought, and I know that it's something that I'm going to use, and I know that it's something that I'm not wasting. But it's a really difficult thing to get past when you're so used to buying things secondhand, or, you know, using what you already have. It feels very strange to walk into a big box, you know, chain store and there's just fabric everywhere, and you know that there are things that are going to waste, but all you can do is your best. I, try my hardest not to hold on to that guilt too much, because I think if I feel guilty about it, then I'm probably going to be projecting that onto the people around me, and that's not something I want to be doing. If you are looking at being more considerate with what you buy, I would definitely recommend making a list before you go to any type of, whether it's like a chain fabric store, whether it's a secondhand shop, anything like that. Definitely write a list of the exact length of zippers that you need, the colors of thread. If you have a pattern that you really want to make but you don't have any fabric that would be suitable for it, write down the amount of meters that you need of that fabric so that you're not overbuying or underbuying and then you can't use it for it anyway. A list is just your best friend. In the notes app in my phone, I just have a rolling list forever of anything that I think of that I need to be able to finish off a project, especially because it may seem wasteful to just keep buying things sometimes, but sometimes all you need is that last, matching thread or zipper, and then you can get started on a project and you can actually end up finishing it rather than everything just sitting around in your stash. So I always keep a list, and if I'm ever at the op shop, I always check out the zippers, I check out the wool, and I think having that list means that when I do come across the right thing, I know that that's something that I need, so I end up getting it and I don't feel like I've missed the opportunity, but I'm not really bringing things into my life that I know that I have no use for. So that's my rant, that's my little haul, I suppose. Those are my projects. I think that's everything that I had to chat to you guys about. I don't think I have any more announcements. Yeah, I think that's it. You may have noticed, you may not have, but 2 weeks ago, I missed an upload. That was just because I had a really busy week. I was coming back into work for the year, and like I mentioned, in the next couple of months we're getting married, we're going on our honeymoon, so there may be some weeks here and there where I don't upload, but that's just because I'm doing life stuff and this is just meant to be fun. I will still be really excited about keeping up with my monthly podcast episodes at a minimum, and then hopefully in the meantime you'll be seeing some sewing videos from me. Thank you for all of your feedback on my getting started with vintage knitting video that I put up recently. I am really excited about making a video about resizing vintage patterns, and I am anticipating that that will be coming out in the next month or two. I've already started preparing for that one. I also would love to do like a Q&A, potentially at the end of the podcast episodes, like maybe just answering a couple of questions, because I do get people asking me about their vintage patterns or, stuff like that. I wonder as well whether it would be more useful to have it all in just one video together so that I can put them all in the same place. Maybe let me know your thoughts. If you do have any questions, just chuck them in the comments and I'll start collecting them. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far, I really appreciate you. I'm so glad you hung around. I would love to know what you're working on at the moment, and I'll see you next time. Bye.